Well, my take on the PRS sector, or the buy-to-let, or the residential letting sector in the UK is it's in a very serious predicament at the moment, particularly here in Scotland. The sea change that we've seen over the last 6-7 years has been dramatic. Everything from, if you go through the Scottish independence referendum to the new legislation that's been brought in, the changes in taxation, all of the thing. What's happened is where you go back 10-15 years ago, we have to do double the amount of properties now to earn the same cash flow or income per unit. We earn half the amount now today than we did 15 years ago per unit, per property. And that's due to the regulation, the legislation, the reduction in taxation. So we have to do double the amount of work to earn the same amount of money as we did 15 years ago. Look, the government's policy is quite simple. There is a squeeze to get rid of. There's too many landlords. There's 95% of landlords own one or less own one property, and another 3% own less than 5. So there's only 2% that own more than 5 properties. It's a minefield. There's 5 million rental properties and 2 million landlords in the UK. So that's a minefield to administer if you're the government. So there's been this push on in recent years to reduce the amount of landlords through taxation, regulation, and make it really disincentivising it, and trying to push the big, and that would allow the opportunity for the bigger players to come into the sector. The problem is with that now, with the new regulations came in through COVID, is that the big players now, if you're given with the legislation that's been brought in for tenancy evictions, so if you've got to wait 6 months before you can evict a tenant, that's a huge put off for any money coming in, any new money coming into the sector, because if tenants are not paying their bills or not paying their rent, and you can't evict them, even start an eviction process for 6 months, then it could take up to another year after that. Potentially you're 18 months without income in a property that's generally in a state of disrepair at the end of that period. Before, it's too long. It's a real turn-off for any new money coming into the sector, and particularly for a lot of these funds who have the ability to invest anywhere in the world, where those rules and regs are not in place. Why would they come here? So we've got a real problem at the moment, and it's been driven by the government, the UK government and the Scottish government. But for where we are in the sector, it's real worrying. And it's worrying mainly for tenants, because there's still the national housing shortage that's still there, that cannot just be satisfied solely by social housing or government provided housing. It needs to be the private rented sector should play a big part in it, but it's almost went too far now with the new rules coming in, because we understand why you would want to reduce the number of landlords and have professional private organisation in the sector. That to me sounds logical and right, and it drives up standards as well. So that to me is the right thing to do. But they're now forcing that side out through the regulation in terms of just dealing with what is standard tenancy evictions or end of tenancy. Normal rules, procedures, whereby someone, end of the tenancy, we can repossess a property and it can be sold or something. But now it's a real difficulty in doing any of that stuff. It's a real turn-off, and for the investors that I know that are looking at it, they're disillusioned. It's not something, we're not buying properties at the moment. We're looking to exit our properties because of these rules and regs that have been brought into place. It is a very, very difficult place to run a professional organisation with the current rules, regulations and taxation that is now in play. Well, big institutional money has been coming into the PRS sector for the last few years in the UK, mainly driven by it's now looked at as on a scale, if it's large scale private rented sector properties, in big key cities, that's what's been driving the investment. So London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, Glasgow, Edinburgh even, those big major cities have attracted big funds coming in who would have previously put their money possibly into commercial, which has had a bad turn, retail, which has had a bad turn. Now what you've got is a professionalism in the residential sector that has attracted that money. So it's seen now was seen as a real alternative to these other traditional, if you're talking pension funds that would go into commercial buildings or big office blocks. Well, that's a shaky market. That's a shaky market now, particularly with COVID. So it is and it's a viable asset class. The problem you've got is the private rented sector in this country, in the UK, is nowhere near as advanced as it is in Europe or in the USA. And the classic example on that is, if you're in the US and I go and buy 200 units, so USA, UK, for example. If I buy 200 units, and let's say it's cost me, $20 million dollars, and we go and improve the property. So we go and put a washing machine in it, a dryer, a dishwasher, and we increase the rents. Maybe 10%, say. We can then, the value of that property, if that's based on rental income, which it normally is on yield, it's on whatever the rental value dictates the price of the actual physical asset. If we've increased that by 10%, that would go up to 22 million. Right? Just because we've improved it, we've put in, we've upgraded the properties, we can charge more rent, we could do that. In the UK, if we do exactly the same thing, so for example, we've spent 15 years, say, buying individual properties, and let's say they're 100,000 each, 100k each, and what happens is we get to the end and we've got 300 of these, and let's say it's 30 million. The UK is behind, so where that has increased in value, and that standard commerce, that standard stuff, and any line of business that you go in, you add value, you've created the value yourself, scale gives you scope, and the prices go up. That happens in business, you're selling business, you're buying business at that, you sell it at that. In the UK property market, the disincentive with this is they'll look at that at anyone. So we've spent 15 years buying 300 properties, and at the end of it, they're saying, okay, so we're selling the 300, say. What's happening is the market comes back and says, well, we want a discount. We want a portfolio discount, irrespective of what the rent is. So we've improved the rents, we've improved the condition of the properties, fully legal, cracking portfolio, operate 98% occupancy, all the numbers work. There should be a premium to the 30 million. The UK market, whoever you talk to, the surveyors, the bank, the solicitors and agents, the buyers, everybody wants a discount. And that could range between 20 to 40%. Because they're saying, and you hear it with some of these half-wits that are on YouTube talking about, thinking they're property experts, saying, but if you went to Costco and you bought 20 tins of beans, you would expect a discount. This is what people are spouting. They shouldn't even be in business, in my opinion. What are they talking about? This is no Costco, this is no tins of beans, this is business. This is no Walmart. We're talking about assets, physical assets, and everywhere else, well, not everywhere else in the world, but if you go to the main private rented sector countries in the world, this is how business works. You improve it, you add value. There is a premium paid for spending 15 years consolidating a fragmented market, bringing it together and creating a business out of it. Now what happens, you get to the end here. So we went and spent 15 years buying them at this price. That's what we paid for them. You get to the end of that period, and to sell them in a one go as a business that makes sense, makes a great return. We're looking at double-digit plus yields on our portfolio, operating well. People want a discount of 20 to 40%, and that's the standard. We say, well, why is that then? There should be a premium on that. Surely you've got 300, there it is, it's a cash generating, hands-off investment. Oh no, and everybody's convinced on this discount to the asset-only value. They are not taking into consideration, to a great extent, the rental income on those. And a lot of it is to do with the system. We're 30 years behind in this country. The rest of Europe and the US. 30 years it'll take to catch up with it. And that is a massive disincentive for any property guy or property business to come into this sector in the UK because of this. This is a problem. This is a massive problem. What we're seeing is a mass exodus from the sector just now. The PRS sector, we're seeing pension funds pulling out because of the new legislation being touted. They came in for COVID, fair enough, that's accepted by everybody, but to extend that beyond, and that's just now going to be put into law potentially in Scotland, that's a huge... I'm telling you, the people that we talk to throughout the world that are looking at investing, they would not invest here now when they can go to Newcastle and they've not got the same rules. People just move their money. It's a global playground. Why would they come here? And we need housing. We need big businesses coming in here. So for this, it's a massive put off. There are very few buyers at the level. We're one of the biggest buyers, would be one of the biggest buyers, but we wouldn't buy now at this level. Now, okay, the argument could be, well, we would do the same then. If we were buying 300, we would look at a discount. But that's not how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to be, if they're a good operating business, like what we would do with any other business that we're operating in, you consolidate a fragmented market, you pull it together, you create a bigger business. There is value you've just created there. But in the residential property business in the UK, this is how people think. And it's back to front to what normally happens elsewhere in the world. That's a massive problem.